This piece was created on Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. I filmed it with the intention of writing a voiceover about my philosophy on death and what Memento Mori, Memento Vivere means to me. In short, it means, remember you will die, remember to live. What I didn't know was what would happen the next day that would solidify this philosophy for me. Wednesday, October 13th, 2021, I called an ambulance because my roommate had passed out on the floor and couldn't move. That was 7:30 a.m. I stayed behind and made a suitcase up for her with a few sets of clothes, her switch, and her journal. By the time I got to the hospital, I was told that they needed me in the room with her while they performed CPR, having started 45 minutes prior. Their hope, and mine, was that me being there, talking to her, holding her hand, would make her come back. She was pronounced dead at 10:09 a.m. while I held the phone to her ear so her parents could say goodbye from Texas. She was 32 years old. It happened so suddenly that it still feels like I'm living in a dream world, even though I sat there with her while she lay on the table, waiting to be taken to the funeral home, even though I was there with her mother and her aunts and her sister-in-law and her cousins and helped clean her body before she was cremated. I had shown her this illustration the night before. We talked about life, and we talked about the dog that had passed away barely over a month before. We talked about the dream I had where that very dog was running around happier than I had ever seen her, and we stood in the kitchen and cried. We went to bed with sad but happy smiles on our faces. I moved to Oregon to get out of Texas. I needed to be somewhere, anywhere else, and she had an empty house with no friends or family nearby. She didn't know how much we needed each other until I drove all of my stuff across the country and unloaded it into her house. I needed a fresh start. She needed someone to come home to. I agreed that I would cook and clean and take care of the animals when she couldn't. She gave me a roof over my head and a small but much needed allowance that I could use to pay off the bills I still had. I never knew how much it meant for me to cook for someone else, and how much I truly loved cooking, especially when I could share it with someone. This would also be my chance to finally focus on my art and make a name for myself in the art community, both online and on the Oregon coast. And she gave me that freedom. Without her, I wouldn't be in Oregon in the first place. Without her, I would still be burnt out at a job run by people who have never worked a customer service position in their life. Without her, I would be living through a pandemic in a state that was actively trying to kill me and everyone I loved. No one could have predicted that in less than a year of moving to Oregon, I would lose the very reason for me being there. I've never done anything so impulsive as quit my job, pack all my stuff into a rental, and hightail it out of the only state I've ever lived in to a place that I've only ever been once. I had never even considered doing something like that. But when the opportunity arose, and as scary as it was, I took it. Because I knew this would be the biggest regret of my life if I let it pass me by. I chose to live that day. And now I will live for both of us. Memento Mori, Memento Vivere. Remember you will die. Remember to live.